Hi, happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a great day today. We've got such cool books to look at. Let's go ahead and start. This first book we're going to look at is called Maple, and it's a great book. And today we're talking about pretending and imagination, and this will help us to learn a little bit about that. Let's look at it. Ooh, the opening cover is great. It says Maple. Maple loved her name. When she was still a whisper, her parents planted a tiny tree in her honor. And even though Flavia, Melly Jane, Lena, Lily, and Constance were all good names, Maple was the perfect fit. And as Maple grew, so did her tree. That's her tree. Sometimes when Maple was noisy, which was a lot, her parents sent her outside to play, and her tree didn't mind if she was loud. Maple would sing to her tree and sway for her tree and sometimes even pretend to be a tree. Today we're talking about pretending and imagination. It says sometimes Maple would pretend to be a tree. Let's keep going. On some days when the wind was just right, Maple would simply lie under her tree and its leaves would dance just for her. Then one day, Maple noticed her tree was bare. Maple was worried her tree might get cold. So Maple took off her jacket and gave it to her tree to stay warm. Sometimes Maple wished she had someone else to play with. The tree wasn't very good at throwing snowballs. She wondered if the tree felt the same way. So she's using the tree as a friend right now. So Maple introduced her tree to a friend, and that friendship didn't last. So she made a snowman, introduced it to her tree as a friend, but the snowman melted. But Maple and her tree still had each other. Through winter and spring. Then one day, something surprising happened. Then something really surprising happened. That's her mom right there. Maple became a big sister. Maple tried to be a good big sister. If the baby was cold, Maple gave the baby her hat and her gloves. And if the baby was lonely, Maple would share her special friends. But Maple couldn't always make the baby happy. And when the baby was noisy, which was a lot, Maple would take her outside to play, and something magical happened. Maple's tree danced for them both. That's her and her sister looking at the tree. And there was just enough room under the tree for Maple and her little sister Willow. And that's her sister's tree right there. I thought this was a great book. It's called Maple. I really enjoyed it. And it talked a little bit about pretending. Sometimes we have to pretend. And, looking outside can be different or can be fun, and we can pretend and imagine stuff. Allergies are really strong right now, so sometimes we have to stay inside. I have allergies too. But, this isn't a real flower, but we could pretend this was a flower and imagine that it smelled good. So I encourage you today to imagine and pretend and to have a wonderful day. I've got one other book to read to you, and it's the same topic we're talking about, imagining a different place for yourself today. Just getting out and having a good time, even if you can't leave where you're at. It's called A Place to Stay, a shelter story. Ooh, look at the opening cover. Isn't that beautiful? I slammed the car door and tucked Bunny Beth under my arm. I don't want to stay here, I told Mama, looking up at the tall building. I know, Mama said softly, but we're very lucky to have a place to stay. I squeezed Bunny Beth to my chest. I didn't feel lucky. This isn't a house, I whispered. So Bunny Beth is her stuffed animal right there. You know what, Mama said? I think you're right. Looks more like a palace to me. A palace, I asked. Mama grinned. Let's go inside and see if the queen is here. So they're imagining it's a palace instead of a building. Inside, we met a woman with short hair sitting in a tall swivel chair. Her name was Kelly. Mama filled out some paperwork. Then Kelly said she would show us to our room on the 3rd floor. We passed an area with some sofas and a television on one side. Next, we walked past a room full of toys and books. Oh, wow, Mama exclaimed. I believe we found the treasure chest. Is all of this for me? I asked. You and all the other kids. Maybe you will make some new friends, said Kelly. Mama said we would visit later. So there's the treasure chest right there. Kelly took us to her room where she said we would sleep. It was very small. Dinner is on the 1st floor, she said, before leaving us to unpack. We put our bags on one side of the beds, and then Mama pressed on the mattress. A little squeaky, but it feels pretty soft. I frowned. This is not my bed. My bed had a fluffy pink blanket and 3 pillows just for me. This bed has a boring gray blanket and only one pillow. Mama replied. You're right, that's not a bed. In fact, that's not a bed at all. She kicked off her shoes and climbed onto the mattress. What are you doing? I asked. Mama took a big bounce. She took another bounce and then another. Her fingertips touched the ceiling. This isn't a bed. This is a rocket ship sending me straight to the stars. Do you want to touch them too? So they're imagining instead of a bed, it's a rocket ship. Bouncing looked like fun. It took me a few times, but I finally touched the ceiling. Mama looked at the clock. Oh, I think it's time to go downstairs for dinner. My tummy is rumbling. Yum! I smell spaghetti, Mama said. The dining room was large and full of people talking loudly. Some people stood behind a counter serving food. Others sat at tables eating. I covered my ears. This isn't a kitchen. Okay, she said, this isn't a kitchen. Let's find out. You're right, Mama said. This isn't a kitchen. It's a banquet hall. A banquet hall, I asked. Yes, and look at how many people have come from near and far to dine with us. Let's get our food and say hello, shall we? Okay, I sighed. So this is them imagining it as a banquet hall. We sat next to a woman named Alice and her two children, Grace and Andrew. Alice let me feed Andrew a bottle. Grace and I talked about school and found out we were reading the same book. After dinner, Mama gathered by my PJs, soap and a towel so I could have a shower. I turned the water on and then ran my hand under the spray. Brrr, I said. The water's cold. You'll just have to wait for the water to warm up before you get in, Mama replied. Wait? Oh, that will never work, I said. And why is that, Mama asked. Because we won't find warm water here, I smiled. Really, how will we find it, Mama asked. We'll find it deep sea diving, I said. Put your diving mask on. So this is her imagining now. And we swam to the right, glug. We swam to the left, glug, glug, glug. Over here, I shouted, the water was just right. After my shower, I climbed into my rocket ship and snuggled with Bunny Beth. Mama, this is the most comfortable rocket ship I've ever slept in, I yawned. Isn't that a great picture? I think so too, Mama whispered, kissing me on the cheek. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Mama, I whispered back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we were off to sleep. And this is what it says about this. It says the characters in their book are spending the night at a homeless shelter. The building provides a place to stay for people who need it. People might have trouble finding a place to sleep at night for many different reasons. This could happen because of natural disasters like a hurricane or a flood destroys someone's home. It could also happen if someone isn't able to live there anymore. Sometimes living at home is not safe, so people have to find a new place to stay. People who need a place to live might stay with friends or family members for a while, or they may also stay in a shelter, just like this one. That was a great book. It was called A Place to Stay, and I love the imagination in it. Imagination is right there for all of us, and we can use it anytime we want to. So remember, this might not look like a real flower, but it can in our minds. It can smell good too. It's just right here. I hope you have a great rest of the day. We're finished for today, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're having our fall formal, and we're going to have a great time. I'll see y'all then. Bye-bye, friends.